Okay, this is Diana Dombrowski. I'm here on July 8th, here in Virginia with Susan Wiatt Briggs. Can I ask you please how to spell your name, just for the record?
Susan Wiatt Briggs.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell me when you were born and where you grew up?
I was born February 26, 1937, and I grew up in the village of Gloucester, directly in front of the Wiatt School. When I was living there, it used to be an elementary school and a high school, but it's only an elementary school now. But just south of my home is a little tiny brick building that used to be the Gloucester Library.
Oh, okay. Can you tell me about both those buildings?
Well, the Gloucester Library is no longer used for a library.
Okay.
We have a bigger one down in the village further, and there's one at Gloucester Point. But what else did you want me to say?
Did you spend a lot of time at the library when you were growing up?
Yes, we did, because sometimes we would even go from the school during our lunch hour.
Oh, really?
You know, that was fun, yeah.
What did you do at the library? Were you mainly reading, or
Oh,
was it
yeah.
just nice to hang out?
I started reading when I was in the 5th grade, really extensively. We all kept a list of how many books we read, and it was mainly Nancy Drew, mysteries, Hardy Boys, and I was always interested in the little biography books too.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you something about my home.
Okay.
My father was a dentist, and he didn't get married to my mother until he was 41, and she was 27. And he said the reason he got married was he was getting older and he needed somebody to take care of him. He was tired of playing poker too, so that was why he got married. And he said one day to me, he said, you know, I wouldn't have had this house built in 36 if I were not planning to have a family. And as it turned out, I was the first of 3.
Oh.
And then my sister came 18 months later, and my brother is 5 years younger than me. And we all 3 feel like we had a delightful childhood growing up in, we called it the courthouse, not the village then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we grew up in Gloucester Courthouse. And I'll never forget going to Annapolis, Maryland one summer, and I went to the post office to mail a letter back to my family. And the guy back there said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Gloucester Courthouse. And he said, you actually live in the courthouse building? And he had me totally confused because I was about 12, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, since I mentioned the courthouse was, when I was growing up, was inside the brick circle that is in the middle of the road there, where the jail is. It's not the real jail now. It's been put out to pasture. We have a fine new jail now, but it used to be the jail. And the clerk's office was in there, and I think it was Commissioner of Revenue too. But anyway, the courthouse building was of interest to me because my grandfather's picture hangs in there. And that was, of course, my father was a Wiatt, and this was his father, and he was the first president of the Bank of Gloucester, and he was also a surveyor, I believe. And as we go down the street, go around that circle, which is brick, and you're walking around it on the right side, supposedly, you will come to what was later the Bank of Gloucester, which is on the main street outside of the circle. And now it is no longer that, it's the SunTrust Bank. But my grandfather was the first president of that Bank of Gloucester, I remember that, from hearing it from my father. And is there anything else, Diana, that you want me to key in on at the present time?
Yes, yeah. Can you tell me about the house where you grew up?
Well, did I tell you it was built in 36?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was just a modest house. It was just a wooden house with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And I used to ask my parents, how many acres do we own? And Mom would say, we don't even own an acre, Susan. So it wasn't a very big amount of land. But we had a good time growing up there. And we could always go skating in the afternoon on the sidewalk in front of the house. And nobody was afraid that anybody was going to accost us or kidnap us like you would be now. And when we'd go out and play all day, and when it was dark, the parents would expect us to come home. And we were not helicopter children. The parents were not always on us and making us belong to this soccer team or this cheerleading squad for midgets or anything like that. We just kind of did our own thing. And I think that it was much better than it is now.
Okay. Where were some of your favorite places to play?
Well, we played in our backyard. We had a softball field, and we had horseshoes. We did that. And we played Annie over. Here it comes with a ball over the tool shed and garage. And a lot of times after school, when we weren't playing at home, we would walk down the sidewalk and we'd go to Dr. Morgan's drugstore, which was on the right when you're headed south. And Dr. Morgan was a very distinguished, looked up to man in Gloucester County at that time. And we would go there and we would read his funny books and drink milkshakes or sodas or whatever. And he seemed to not mind, but we were in there, and sometimes we got a little rowdy, and we would take the straw and try to put it up on the ceiling and see if it would stick. But he never seemed to fuss at us or anything. So we always chose that drugstore to go to.
That's nice. He seems really friendly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And as it turned out, he is a member, or was a member, of the same church I am a member of now, First Presbyterian. And believe it or not, he and his wife, Louise, have the same anniversary date as my husband and I.
Oh, really? What day is that?
September 8th.
Gray's drugstore. 2 drugstores.
And across the street was Gray's drugstore. And it was, I don't know, we liked Mr. Gray because he was my next door neighbor just north of me.
Really?
You know, I told you the library was to the south, and he was the neighbor to the north of me. But we didn't go in there and do our little frisky deeds. But we liked Dr. Gray a lot. Because he was my neighbor.
Yeah, yeah. And that makes sense that you might want to behave a little nicer. He's your neighbor. Right.
And now that you're talking about the Fairfield organization.
Yes, yeah.
That Texaco station down there used to be run by a Mr. Brown from Wiatt, and that's where you all are now. And it's a very new addition to the county, and I think y'all are doing a good job with it. And I'm sure you'll get much more informative information from a lot of other people about some of the buildings. I do remember the Calvin Hotel. Because that was in the 50s. And I finished high school in 1955, and that was built about 5 years before I finished high school. And it was a hotel, and it was a restaurant. And it was built by Mr. Roan Booker, who owned the Tri-County Furniture Store on the same side of the street, just south of it. And Mr. Roan Booker was also a very well-known man in the village, and he contributed a lot to our county. He was one that people looked up to and respected. And his home is just south of the Tri-County Furniture Store.
Okay.
And one of his sons lives in it now.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. I know we were talking about some of the buildings specifically, and but we also talked about some of your favorite places to play, like to hang out, and that you go to the library. So where else in town did you spend a lot of your time?
Oh, gracious. A lot of time was spent on Duval Avenue.
Okay. I'm headed there tomorrow. Yeah.
Just talk to Roberta Wiatt.
Yes.
That's my first cousin.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, I've talked to her over the phone a couple times, so I'm looking forward to
Well,
meeting her.
anyway, the reason that we spent a lot of time on Duval Avenue is I had cousins on my mother's side on the right side of Duval and on my daddy's side on the left.
That's close. Yeah.
My mother was a Fahrenheit, so she was on the right side with her brothers, Bob and Brown. And Brown had two boys, Blair and Jimmy. And then on the other side of Duval Avenue was Max and Jean Wiatt. And they had 3 children. And the ones that we played with over there were mainly Nancy and a little bit with Roberta. But Fayette was the oldest of the 3. And we didn't play with him because he got married early on. And we waved to him when he went by on the Greyhound bus on his honeymoon. So he was not in our age bracket. But what we did on that avenue is we would play football every Saturday. And it was on a vacant lot near Uncle Bob Fahrenholt's house. And we would be the Federalists and the Confederates.
Oh,
And we
really?
would play two-hand touch football. And the one that all the other girls that weren't related to him were mainly interested in was Blair Fahrenholt. Because Jimmy didn't play football. And he was a big sportsman. And a lot of the girls that related to him that were, in our group had crushes on him.
Yeah.
And I can tell you one thing.
Okay.
We used to have a carnival that would come every summer.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the new doctor's building is now and the new Vasti jewelry store. All of that used to be vacant land, and the carnival would come every summer there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long had they been coming? Is that
Gosh,
something your parents did when they were younger too?
I don't think so.
No.
But we used to go to the Edge Hill Theater down there. And that's where the bowling alley is now. And we would go to that, and that was a big thing in our childhood,
Okay.
going to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorites?
What, movies?
Yeah.
Well, we used to like to go on Saturday night because they had a serial, that was continued every Saturday night. And of course there was Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and Butch Cassidy. And we liked those. I remember one thing, we went to see The American in Paris, which
Okay.
was a musical that was very popular then. I do remember that one specifically. And I don't know that I can recall any other movies other than going Saturday night to see the Westerns.
I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about how Duval and how Main Street look different now than they did when you were growing up. Maybe what are some of the big differences?
Duval doesn't look much different except more houses have
Yeah.
been built
Okay.
down the way. But the house where my cousin lives now is very much as it was before, and so is Dr. Morgan. Dr. Morgan lived right next to my Aunt Jean and Uncle Max.
Okay.
And he's the drugstore we went to, remember?
Yes, yeah.
But it hadn't changed that much, really. And Main Street, of course, has changed. There's been more built there. But some of the things that were really the hot spots in the 50s are not maintained now as they should be. And I don't need to name them. You can find out for yourself when you go down the street. A couple of them that are on your sheet.
What are some of the ones you'd like to see taken better care of?
I don't know whether I should divulge that or not.
Really?
Well, the Calvin Hotel is just sitting there with plywood in the front for windows. Nothing is done with it. And that's the main one I'm talking about.
Okay. What would you like to see people remember about it or say about it or do with the building?
Well, I think it was built because when I was a little kid, that we had a hotel to burn. And that was on the other side of the street. And this is why the Calvin Hotel was built. And we were all very excited when it came because we were getting a new hotel.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I can say.
Okay. Okay. I do have a couple more questions, if it's okay with you. I'm wondering about how long your family's lived in this area. If you can tell me what your dad did or what his family did around here.
My dad was a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was a homemaker until she became 47. And before that, when she was not married to my dad, she worked in the Bank of Gloucester.
Okay.
And she was 27 when she married my father, and then at 47 she went back to work, and she went to work in the health department, which was at first at the end of Duval Avenue in the little white building, behind what used to be Dr. Tabb's house, and his office used to be in that little white building. And then later on, the Gloucester Health Department was put up behind the Body Tight Hotel, and she worked in there. And she had to take a typing test because she'd been 20 years since she typed, and I can remember her stressing over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they tell you what it was like to grow up here in this area at all?
Well, my daddy grew up at Ark,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother was from a place called Pampa,
Okay.
and they neither one were in the village when they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was one of 12.
Wow.
My mother was one of 6. And Mother remembers going to Baltimore on the steamboat.
Wow. Yeah.
And because there's anybody that knows anything about history knows that the water was used as a ways to get around before the roads were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, I'll tell you one thing my husband is really impressed with about my dad's family.
Mm-hmm.
My dad came from a family of 12 and lived in the country. And all of the 12 became educated. My father was born in 1895. So even back then, and on, let's see, my grandmother, she worked hard. She was not going to teas and playing bridge and a social life. She worked on the land up there. And the name of the home place is Hillsview. And we went up there every summer, the first Sunday in August for a reunion, starting in 1945. And they still do it.
Wow.
They don't go there because we don't own that anymore. But we go to Fayette Wiatt's place. And that's my cousin I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a long time. That's a lot of reunions
I know
between 45 and now. Yeah. Whereas
That's commendable because a lot of families don't even have one. My mother's family was on the verge of having one.
Mm-hmm.
And then her brother Brown died at age 65 and something happened. We never had it. We never had it.
Celebrities, Harry Morgan and
See the speaker perhaps. Well, we have one celebrity from Duval Avenue other than Miss Roberta Wiatt, and that is Dr. Morgan's son, Harvey. He was in the legislature of the state for many, many years. House. Right.
Do you know him very well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I went up there 4th of July and he spoke at our church.
Oh, really?
And Roberta spoke at our church. We had a patriotic do at our church, and it was wonderful. And it was concluded with our minister and the treasurer of this county, Gloucester, playing a piano duet, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow. What did he have to say there that day?
Harvey
Morgan? Mm-hmm.
talk about the Revolutionary War.
Did you turn it off?
Oh no, I can if you want to.
He talked about the Revolutionary War
Okay.
and how we had real patriots at that time, which we don't seem to have anymore. And I remember very distinctly, not 4th of July that just passed when Harvey spoke, but he told me one time, he said, I am not a politician, I'm a statesman. And I think statesman is finer term than politician. You know, you say politician and people immediately don't think too highly of that person, really. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And he is a very, very honorable man, as his father was, Dr. Morgan, that owned the drugstore.
I know Jessica, who's in charge of the project, or she's working to coordinate it, interviewed him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
She's told me about him for years. Yeah. Yeah. She has a lot of good memories just of talking to him about what it was like to grow up and live here, too. Yeah. Did you ever visit or learn about, like, Jamestown and Yorktown and stuff when you were growing up? Was that part of stuff that you did? Or
Oh, yeah, I went to
about?
4-H camp at Jamestown.
Oh, really? What did you do there?
We played.
Yeah.
And we had people in bunks, you know, above us. And we went to Vespers. And
Oh,
it was
really?
just a good time, you know.
Yeah, that sounds really
And it was on the James River.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Were you on the water a lot when you were growing up, too?
I didn't live on the water when I grew up because my house was in front of Bodytight School. But my father, as a lot of Wiatts were big fishermen.
Okay.
And he would go down to the warehouse landing right there beside Hodges and Bryant plumbing building and go down what we call the warehouse road, and he would fish. And that was the closest we came to water. I never lived on the water till I got married.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the way we feel, once you live on the water, you don't want to live off of it. It's something about it, something addictive about it.
Okay. Could you tell me a little bit about the house that you're living in now? You've lived here since 73, you said?
We had this house built in 72.
Okay.
And I thought I was going to be in by Christmas. But my children were both preschool age.
Oh.
And it was a good thing that we didn't. So we got in January because it's been kind of hectic trying to have Christmas and move in this house at that time right before Christmas. And we've been very happy in this house. I mean, it's custom built.
Wow.
I chose a man from Williamsburg to do the floors, and I've never had them refinished. They've been the same finish that I've had on them since we moved in.
Wow.
And at that time, real brick was very scarce. And when we had lived in Richmond, the two of us, JD and I, before, we had a home that was built of artificial old brick. So I don't know why I got this in my head, but I wanted authentic old brick. And it was very hard to come by. And we got the brick that this house was built from some place in Newport News that had been torn down. And
Wow.
yeah, and then on some of the bricks you'll see numbers and letters.
Wow.
But
That's
you know,
really
one
cool.
thing that is bad about authentic old brick, it's a little softer than most brick. But it hadn't fallen down.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about most of the buildings you remember, what it was like to grow up in this area. So I wonder, because some of this is going to be used for public history stuff, what is something that you'd really like people to know about Gloucester Courthouse, maybe who are visiting, about what you'd like to do here, why you enjoy it so much, or what you'd really like for them to take away about what's special about this place?
It's very historic.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so close to Yorktown and Williamsburg. And I don't always think that people that go to Yorktown and Williamsburg come to Gloucester. And they really should. We have a lot of beautiful old plantations here. And we have a lot of people that move in and buy these places and keep them up. Most of the people that do this are not natives. They come here. We have Elmington and Exchange and Avell, and I could just Goshen, and these places are very attractive. And we have a wonderful garden tour here every year in April.
Oh, I don't think I've been on that. I haven't been here in April yet.
Well, you need to come in April because every time when we have that, the Garden Club of Gloucester puts it on under the auspices of the Garden Club of Virginia. And people say, golly, y'all have the nicest homes and your girls do such good jobs with the flower arranging. And we're known for that. Plus, back in the 40s and 50s, you know what we were called? The daffodil capital of the world.
Really?
Because we shipped so many daffodils in big boxes everywhere else. And right below me, here where I live now, is Little England.
Yes.
And I can remember as a little girl, there were fields of daffodils.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was where a lot of them came from.
Wow. Yeah. That must have been beautiful.
It was. And a lot of the little children pictured picking the daffodils.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.